And I'm your African history host, Professor Hicks. Ah, what a day, what a day. All right, so today we're going to continue with our topics for discussion and a few other surprises, but mostly topics of discussion. And before we get started, though, we're going to do a little libation for our ancestors because there is, excuse me, I'm sorry, folks, there is so much going on in this world that we need to, particularly in the United States, we need to make sure that we are talking to, communicating, and welcoming our ancestors in this troubled time to help us and see our way through this. This is why the term Sankofa, meaning returning to the past, is so important to our community so that we may be able to do that and rescue ourselves from this madness and to keep ourselves sane. So if you don't have someone to honor and to pray to, you can do this with me today. Today I'm honoring Dr. Clark. As such, I'm going to read his quote. But before we do that, we're going to honor our ancestors, our ancestors, with a little music that they enjoy and that hopefully you do too as well. Here we go.
By the Almighty and ancestors Yemaya, my earthly mother, traditionally in Yoruba culture, we begin our ceremonies by doing a libation, an offering, in this case to our ancestors. And so I'm going to be doing the ritual. And what I will be doing is asking for all our elders and all our ancestors to bless us today and begin the ceremony. I will be mentioning all the countries that I can remember where the African slave trade brought our people, so that all our ancestors in the diaspora will be praised in this ritual. So when you hear the countries, particularly that of your native birth, you can respond by saying Ashe, which means so be it, or Amen. Thank you. Mojubo mi jale que iba que su bendición siempre me alcance. Mojuba, Bobo Egun de África.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Cuba.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Puerto Rico.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Haití.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Santo Domingo.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Panamá.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Venezuela.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de Colombia.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Bobo Egun de San Tomás, San Cruz, Saint Martin, Nieves, todas las islas vírgenes, Mojuba.
Ashe.
Mojuba, Mileri, Mojuba, Bobo Egun.
All right. Ashe. Now you notice I said Ashe to almost every country for those who can interpret Spanish. Why did I do that? Well, I did it because I am an African and I am from all of those places. And we were there before anyone else. There's no more discussion about, as I had this morning with some people, discussion about where we were. We were everywhere. Folks, the discussion I had today was filtered, or should I say, enormously littered with stats and genetics and genealogy and architecture and archaeology and people quoting from these genealogy studies. Very, very intelligent people seem to be talking about all the different forms of proof to our existence. This time it was speaking about Africa and the old period, the old kingdom. Well, I say one thing to all of those people. You're just trying to learn something that you don't know or that you were never apprised of. African people were the first people on the planet. As such, there is no continent, body of land, place that we weren't there first. So you can continue to argue if you want. This argument is over for me. I'm an old guy, even though I look great. I'm an old guy. I've been doing this for 30, almost 35, 40 years. I've done all the research. I've done all the research. Just because I'm an educated professor and high school teacher and a lecturer and things I've done, it doesn't make me better than you. It doesn't make me no more than you. I don't need that. You see, I am Sankofa. I am Africa. I need no one to prove to who we are, particularly who I am. Thank you. And with that said, we're going to read a libation for Dr. John Henry Clark. May the spirits and ancestors remember him and remember us as we say his name. Dr. John Henry Clark, and I'm pouring libation to him. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe to all my ancestors. Here's what Dr. Clark wanted us to remember. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. History is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. The role of history is to tell people where they have been, what they have been, and where they are and where they must go. The important role that history plays is that it has a function of telling a people where they still must go and what they still must be. Dr. John Henry Clark. If you're interested in finding that quote, as always, I'll show you guys my books that we're dealing with. You can find that quote in Tony Browder's Nile Valley Civilizations. I'll hold it there for a second so you can copy. Okay? Ashe. Ashe to our great ancestor. All right, we got that out the way. What's next? All right, so the next few days, as you can see, we're going to be doing kind of like a little news thing, a little reel type thing. Now, I don't have the images to provide to you, so I want you to please bear with me because I am using the reels that I got off the internet today, some of the social media platforms, and I don't have access to them, nor am I able to integrate them, or should I say apply them to my feed here and to my broadcast. I don't have that ability. But because I think it's so essential for us to hear this stuff, I'm going to use my phone here to let you listen to some of the things people have to say regarding the stuff that we're going to talk about today. So you'll hear an excerpt from a social platform, and then I will do a little commentary, and that's how today's program is going to run. All right, so Ashe, 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 and welcome back. For me, it's a great day because every day I wake up and breathe is another great day for me. Okay, very good. All right, so the first thing I'm going to talk about, and I left this off last time, and this time I said, you know what, I'm going to use my chat GPT. It's a wonderful tool. It's not good for everything, but this sort of thing, topics to talk about, this is perfect. It's really perfect. So the first thing I want to talk about, where we last left off, we talked about how did we have such a horrible display of sportsmanship and racial animosity towards the Senegalese soccer player. You guys call it, most international people call it football. Here in America, we call it soccer, but football/soccer. How did we get such a horrible ending to that championship that the Senegalese whipped, where they whipped the Moroccans' ass? Some of you might have seen the images, but it perplexed me because Morocco is an African nation, created and started by an African. The people who you see there today, the present inhabitants of Morocco, are not truly African people. Now, I want to be very sensitive to what I'm saying because to me, if you live in Africa, you were born in Africa, then you have some African descent. Doesn't mean you have African ancestry, but you have descent. So I don't want to disrespect anyone I said, but because of the ugly display of racism that they presented, I have every right to call those folks not Africans, but what they are. And what they are former slaves. Yes, those are the descendants of former slaves who were taken during the Barbary Coast raids from the Moroccans or Africans who were expelled out of Spain in 1492 en masse, along with the large Jewish population, who went to Morocco and began to seize ships, cargo ships, merchant ships of the Europeans. As such, when they captured these Europeans, they sold them in a slave market that went from Morocco all the way to the Urals, all the way to the Western Europe, the Baltics, and those. And these slavers were buying the daughters and the sons of the Europeans who were selling them at length. Now, I don't have time to go into all the history, but I'm going to give you a little bit of ChatGPT. Now, why is this important? Because these very people do bananas, called us monkeys, and hated the black Sinhalese just because they whipped their ass. But you should know a few things. First thing I'm going to show you is an image, okay? I can only do this again because I don't have the time. I want to show you this image. This is an image of Moulay Rashid. Let's see if you can see that. You can see clearly he is a black man. Moulay Rashid. Moulay Rashid was the emperor of Morocco from 1631 to 1672. And he was the Moroccan ruler. He was the general. He was with General Bassa, if you've ever, very, very well-known name in ancient history. And this guy, Moulay Rashid, was an African, as you can see. Today, his descendant is still around. This is him. I'm sorry. This is him. He is the current president or prime minister of Morocco. He is a duke, a son of kings and queens, still in prominence today. Looks much like our brother, doesn't he? When you put them side by side. Look, they have, let me see if I can get it. There you go, Hicks. They kind of, just look at it. You can see the resemblance. I'm sorry, folks. Such a horrible way to display this. But it's important to know, because it is proof to what I say, that the people that are there today are not the same people that were there originally. All right? The original Moroccans were pushed down into what we call the sub-Saharan part of Africa, into places like Mali and Songhai, okay? And the Europeans who were brought in there, of course, intermarried and had intercourse, miscegenation with the hierarchy. This is the way they always move in. They always find who the leaders are, and they intermarry with the leaders. And before you know it, that black skin has bleached itself to white skin. And moreover, they were outsiders coming into Africa through many ways. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. I asked the question to it: are present-day Moroccans descendants of African people? Now let me quote: yes, they are descendants, but they are not the original Africans. Yes, present-day Moroccans are descendants of African people, but their ancestry is multi-layered, reflecting North Africa's long role as a crossroad. If you look at the map of Morocco, you'll see why it's a crossroad, much like Spain, because it leads from the Mediterranean and it intersects two bodies of land. Okay? Between Africa, Europe, and the Near East. Let's see what they say. Core ancestral. Indigenous North Africans, called them Amazigh Berbers. Now, Amazigh is the language they speak now. The Amazigh are the original inhabitants of Morocco, present for tens of thousands of years. We call those folks in history Berbers, and they were black as night. They are African people indigenous to North Africa with deep roots stretching back to prehistoric populations of the Maghreb. Now, the Maghreb is the North African coastal areas along going from Libya, Morocco, Algiers, all the way down almost to Egypt. Genetic studies show strong continuity between ancient North African and modern Amazigh population. Sub-Saharan African ancestry. Morocco has long been connected to West and Central Africa through trans-Saharan trade routes. Many Moroccans, especially groups such as Gnawa, have clear West African ancestry linked to historic migration, trade, and enslavement. They don't mean black slaves. They talk about genetic markers. I'm going to skip that, all right? Because we know they have some ancestry. We know they look dark. They got curly hair. They got big nose, except they're very pale skin. All right, Arab ancestry. Arab migration. This is where most of them come from. They're Arabs. Yes, they came with the Arabs who came across Africa in 1675 up to 711 when they, of course, invaded Spain. Arab migration began in the 7th and 11th centuries with the Islamic explosion. As you know, Islam exploded through Africa. These were one of the countries that was affected by that explosion. Over centuries, Arab identity in Morocco became cultural and linguistic, not purely genetic. Let me say that again. Cultural and linguistic, not purely genetic. Yes, there is some genetic relations. But mostly, folks, these people are Arabs, Europeans of so many Slavs. And where do you think the term Slav comes from? Where do you think the term slave comes from, I should say? It comes from the word Slav, which means Slovakia, those people who live in Europe, or Yugoslav, which is, I don't believe is a country anymore. Yugoslavia, I believe, has changed its name under the USSR and different changes that I can't keep up with. But yes, Slavs is where slaves came from. And they were enslaved as we were, white folks. This went on. Look up, you can look this up. So do some research. Let me move on. I don't have all day for this. Mediterranean European inputs. I'm going to leave you with this. Historical contacts added smaller ancestry layers. Phoenicians, Roman, Andalusians, Muslims, and Jews expelled from Iberia. European admixture during later periods. These influences are secondary and do not replace the Morocco's African foundation. Let me say one more time. These Moroccans who got their ass whooped by the Senegalese and then went on to attack them because they got their ass whooped are just like the people they're from, Eurasians. And we know what Eurasians do. They expand and they extract. Expand and extract. Now, I'm going to leave you with this last note. Who cares? What is Morocco compared to the rest of Africa? What does it offer the world besides people from a different descent? Nothing. Nothing. So we should not worry. I hope they had fun, but we'll kick their ass again. And there you go. And by the way, the incident that occurred was even supported by some of the political figures in Morocco. And I have their names, but I'm not going to go there because it was a sporting event and I don't waste my time, critiquing sporting events. But because they disrespected our African brothers, I had to mention it. All right, let's move on. Enough of that. All right. Today, I listened to something from Dr. Joy Leary that really it really made me think, because my mom was a civil rights activist, okay?